We're just about 2 months away from the start of the 2021 F1 season, and the world champion is technically a free agent. Lewis Hamilton still hasn't signed a contract with Mercedes for this year, and to help me, Glenn Freeman, work out what's going on, I have Ed Straw and Scott Mitchell with me. Now, Ed, throughout 2020, we were told by Mercedes and Hamilton that this was being delayed because of problems like the disrupted season, the coronavirus pandemic, lots of legitimate reasons that meant it wasn't the right time to discuss a contract. But now we're this deep into January in the season that the contract's meant to be for. Does that argument still wash?
No, I don't think it does. It's perfectly believable while there were still months to go that there were reasons they hadn't quite got around to it. You could easily have a kind of rough deal in principle and think, well, we'll just sort out some of the details. But as it's gone on and as we've moved into a period where Hamilton is completely out of contract, that it's become clear that there's something going on. There's some kind of game of contractual brinkmanship going on when it comes to the Hamilton-Mercedes deal. It doesn't mean there's some massive falling out or anything. You can have a difficult negotiation without it being all-out war, but there's obviously a few small stumbling blocks that have held this back. But it's an absolutely extraordinary situation. The preeminent Grand Prix driver of today, and arguably even all time, has not got a deal for the coming season, and it's almost like it's become a smaller story than it should have been. This is a really, really huge deal. It may be that it's all done and dusted, but no business would like to have a prize asset out of contract and any kind of uncertainty this close to the start of the season.
Yeah, Mercedes have done quite a good job, I think, of playing it down. But Scott, Ed hinted there that there must be something going on. What do you reckon it could be? What could be holding this up this far?
Well, I guess we'll be down to the finer details. I don't think it's as fundamental as Hamilton and Mercedes arguing over whether or not the partnership could continue. It's pretty evident that Mercedes obviously recognises the benefits and value that Hamilton brings, and Hamilton knows that there's no better option for him in Formula One. He wants to carry on racing because he wants this to be like his platform for not just success on track, but obviously the movements he's trying to push off track as well. So when we're not dealing, I'm certain, with anything as fundamental as that, but it's still a pretty big sticking point when you come down to elements like salary, benefits, requirements, and duration of contract. I'd be surprised if they weren't well aligned on the duration of the contract. I think it would make sense for both of them to have an idea of, okay, well, the next couple of years are sorted. So I don't want to be too inappropriate and talk about the finances, but that is what all of the speculation comes down to. Hamilton demanding this, Mercedes only being willing to pay that. It is worth pointing out that every time this speculation about what Lewis supposedly does or doesn't want is always conflicting. There are simultaneously reports that he's asking for too much money, that he's asking for less money than last year, that Mercedes is willing to pay him the money he wants but isn't willing to budge on the duration of the contract, or vice versa. So that is a bit of a mess. The sort of prevailing opinion is that Hamilton is sort of requesting less as a base salary compared to last year, but wants a little bit more sort of recompense around that through the form of bonuses or a share of Mercedes revenue. But again, this is all just speculation. I think the reason we're quite confident that this is all going to be resolved is I don't think they're a million miles apart in terms of what is sort of achievable for Mercedes, which is now part owned by Daimler, by Toto Wolff and by Ineos. They have the means to find the money without making it too inappropriate from a Mercedes point of view, because this company is laying people off at the same time and going through a big shift because of the global situation that we're in. I think it's reconcilable, and I think that's probably the reason why it is still dragging out, because these are details that both parties are happy to keep negotiating over, but they're not yet at a point where they're completely aligned.
So it doesn't feel like we're reaching a stage where any of these terms become a deal breaker. But let's play hypothetical for a second then, Scott. If for some reason Lewis doesn't sign and he walks away from F1 because there's no other seat on the grid for him to take at this stage, what are the domino effects that happen after then? Who is affected the most if suddenly a Mercedes seat becomes available?
So the first knock-on effect will obviously be Toto calling Williams, I suppose, to ask how much it's going to cost to get George Russell out of his the final year of his contract with that team to replace Lewis, and then Williams will need to sort out who replaces George. Maybe Mercedes throws Stoffel Van Dorn into the mix as a sweetener, and Stoffel makes an F1 return. Longer term, I'm sure Max Verstappen would be watching this with a great deal of interest and thinking, okay, well, maybe my long-term Red Bull contract isn't such a good idea. There's a Mercedes opening, and he'll get the magnifying glass out and be looking at all of the break clauses and the fine print to see how he can get out of it. But yeah, this is all. I still think we're in the realms of intense speculation. If I was a betting man, I'd be putting my money on Hamilton and Mercedes signing a new deal. And sadly, none of these funny and interesting knock-on effects coming to light.
But perhaps there's a third way. While I agree with Scott that chances are this deal will be done, remember 1993 with Ayrton Senna and McLaren, he didn't sign a full season deal until well into the middle of the season. He was on a race-by-race deal early in the year and wasn't even turning up until he had the payment in his accounts. It seems unlikely, but it was pretty unlikely in 93. Similar situations, massive team, albeit one a little bit lower in terms of performance than it would normally expect to be, and the preeminent driver of the time. Could this be a story that actually runs and runs into May, June with question marks over what's going on? I doubt it, but you never know. It's amazing it's gone this far. Who knows how much further it could go on?
Yeah, that Senna story is absolutely amazing. He was getting $1 million per race that season. That situation is mentioned in another video on our channel called 10 Crazy F1 Contract Stories. However, it's obviously only one entry of the 10. So if you'd like to hear a lot more about that Senna 93 situation and how it perhaps relates to the Hamilton-Mercedes situation, let us know in the comments and we can see about producing a full video detailing that much more clearly for you. But for now, that's it from us here at The Race. We'll see you again very soon with another video. And who knows, maybe it will be about Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes signing a contract for 2021.